Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody's Doing It Right, the podcast for those who are uncertain. My name is Kat. I am your host. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about if the effort is worth the outcome. This is important for anybody who might be giving too much effort to things that aren't actually aligned for them and actually what they want from their life. And I say this as somebody who has done this. And also, if you've been raised in an environment or conditioned to believe certain things are what you should want, or what, a person like you should do, or how you will be liked if you do this one specific thing, or show up this way, or make yourself look this way, whatever it is for you. It is really important to check in with yourself for your own well-being, for your own benefit, and ask yourself, is the effort I'm putting into this thing going to be worth the outcome? Now, obviously, you can't always tell how you're going to feel about something until you get it, until you're there. Of course, we cannot pre-plan everything. We can't control everything. Some things just happen, and some things, you learn as you go. You understand yourself better once you are faced with a certain circumstance and you learn, okay, this is right for me, it's not right for me. However, there are also many things that if we were to look at from the place we're at now, if we were to imagine or envision ourselves in that future goal or circumstance, whatever, we can ask ourselves and be honest and ask, is that actually what I want? Would that actually make me feel good? And I think this is a very scary thing for many people to do, because there is the chance that you will think, no, it's not going to feel good. And I know it deep down. I know that this is not going to be right for me. And yet you feel the pressure or the pull towards it because of all the conditioning you might have. And I understand how difficult it is. But it's really important to be mindful of this before you make decisions that will completely affect your life and how it unfolds, that you cannot go back on. And I say this, as someone who has been, shown ideas or images of what, a woman should do, or just a person in my environment or my social and cultural upbringing should do. And this is what you have to do. This is the plan. This is what it looks like, or this is what makes you valid based on maybe my family's, ideas of what someone who's valid looks like. I've had to really force myself to question whether or not these things are right for me. Because when you're in it and you're putting the effort in and you're spending time and energy, you're wasting time and energy, because of course your time is not infinite. We have a finite amount of time on this planet, and we have to really be mindful of how we use it. If you're putting it towards something that, if you were to look at that thing and say, you know what, that's not going to feel good for me, it's not actually aligned for me, what a shame that is for you. What a disservice that is for you to do that to yourself. And of course, there are extenuating circumstances. There's things outside of ourselves that we can't control, that we have to do things, we have to show up in ways. Of course, I'm not at all denying that. There are many things you have to do. You can't even question whether or not you want to do them. You just have to. And that is part of life as well. But there are many things as well that we force ourselves to do, that we force ourselves into, that we don't have to. And it's such a shame to not take that power when we can get it. Because again, you don't have power in all aspects of life, but there are parts that you do, and to give that power up to somebody else or some other idea simply because it's what's going to, validate some image or belief or being approved of, validated, whatever, is so sad. It's like so painful. And I say this as somebody who has gone through paths where I forced myself to do things that I felt like, oh, this is the thing you have to do. This is the thing that's going to make me valid, or it's going to be approved of, and completely ignoring and denying myself my truth, my authenticity. And realizing, wow, I spent so much time doing this rather than letting myself just be honest and open and experience what I wanted to experience, what effort felt worth the outcome of it. And of course, sometimes you have to do all that. You have to put yourself through that to learn things. So I'm not denying that. So it's not like, oh, you're wasting your time and your life, and now there's, and that's the worst thing that you can do. Of course, there's always something to be taken from any circumstance, any situation. But just for you, so you feel a little bit more aware and in control in ways that you can be, ask yourself, is the effort that I'm putting into this thing, this person even, is it worth the outcome that it's logically heading towards? Because you can probably tell by the steps you're taking, the effort you're putting in, the things that are unfolding right now, logically where this is going to end up. You can kind of foreshadow it a bit. Of course, things take turns that you can't expect, obviously, but you can kind of foreshadow. Is this outcome that you're seeing kind of unfold slowly, is that actually where you want to be? Like, is that going to be worth it for you? It's so important to ask yourself that. And I think so many of us ignore that and avoid it because it's painful to recognize, like, wow, no, this is actually not what I want, but I've spent so much time doing it, right? The sunk cost fallacy. Or I spent so much time on this person and they have so much potential, so I'm going to just, stick it out and hopefully, we'll end up where we need to end up. And it's like, you can't just hope all the time when it comes to those things that are within your control. Because there are some things that are completely and totally in your control. You have to make the decision. But of course, making the decision is scary. It's uncomfortable to have to decide, because when that power is in your hands and you make a decision, you're scared. What if it's the wrong one? What if what if it puts me on a path that's not right for me? This one's safer. This one's more familiar. I've been doing this for a while. Even if in the back of your mind, logically, you don't want to get to that outcome, but you're still on it. Or what if you make a decision and it's exactly the path you want to be on, but being on that path is scary because you have to be a different, maybe more confident version of yourself to maintain it. And that's scary in and of itself. So you don't want to do it at all. I get it. It's not easy, but it is so vital. And I'm saying this to my younger self, even, who struggled with doing things that she didn't want to do, that she felt like she had to do. And looking back now saying, wow, I could have started a little bit earlier on what I wanted. I could have taken a little bit more action in what I wanted and not felt so scared, because a lot of the inaction was fear, just purely fear, not even hesitation because there were other things, I wanted to experience or other paths. It's just, a lot of it was just purely fear-based that held me back. And I look back and I'm like, wow, that's such a shame that I held myself back from that because of fear. And of course, when you're younger, it's harder to step out of that fear. I get it. It's not easy. You're still learning, you're still growing, your prefrontal cortex is still developing. So I get it. So I'm not going to say, you should already have it all sorted out and be confident and fearless in your early 20s. No, that's a very scary time, of course. But if there's one thing that I could say to my younger self, or to anybody else who's listening who maybe is struggling with this right now, where they realize I'm doing something that's taking a lot of effort and energy out of me, and I don't really like the idea of where it's going, but I feel like I have to, or I feel like this is the most comfortable, path to take. I would implore you to really ask yourself if the effort is worth that outcome, and what small step or small decision you can make right now to realign, even if a little bit, even if minutely, you can do that, because it can make a world of difference over time, right? Consistency compounds. It's all about the compound effects of small decisions that you do consistently. So what's one small decision I can make right now? One small shift that I can make that will be, maybe less scary than making a really big one? Because if you're on a path and you've been on a path for a while, to completely shift and change direction, obviously is overwhelming. So what's one step I can take in a different direction? Maybe that means sharing your art, and maybe working towards a career that's more creative rather than one that you're on right now. Maybe that means, okay, I'm in a relationship with somebody and the way it's unfolding right now, I'm not liking how it's going. I'm not liking the effort I'm putting in, the way I'm showing up, the way I feel like I have to show up. Maybe the one small step in a different direction is expressing one need or desire to your partner and seeing how they respond. And maybe they'll respond favorably. And then now you're already shifting into another path with a different outcome potentially. And then you continue with that. You continue with those steps in that direction. So yeah, obviously this isn't easy all the time. It's easier said than done, but it is important to ask yourself, is the effort I'm putting into this, the time, the energy, is it worth the outcome that I'm seeing right now, that I can envision from where I am right now with all this effort? If I were to logically follow that and look at the outcome of it, is it worth it? Or am I going to be spending my finite time on this planet towards something that is not even going to satisfy me, that I can already recognize right now is not going to satisfy me because it's not mine. It's not what I really want. It's what somebody else wants or some external force wants from me. Really important to question, because, it'll save you a lot of time and energy potentially that could be put towards things that do actually matter to you, that are, fun and enjoyable and more worthwhile, that you are maybe suppressing right now, that deep down you want, but you're a little bit scared to admit it to yourself or to other people. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was encouraging. I hope it was informative. If you want to talk with me one-to-one, you can. I offer calls. I'm not a therapist, of course. I always say this. I just love talking about this stuff. I also have a Substack where I write about these things. And you can follow me on my social media where I post other content. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.